So, I have been learning a lot about blood, and I wanted to share some kind of interesting things that recently came to my attention after doing some studying that I was not aware of before as far as managing blood and what's happening. So, this is a really, really simple diagram of like a vascular cell. So, it's kind of like a cutaway here. So, if you were to cut it away, you see here you've got this purpley colored cell, and that's the endothelium cells, which is like the lining for the inside of your veins. And then you have the nervous system, the neurons, which is it's similar to the endothelial cells, but it's actually on the exterior of the vein. And then inside the vein, you've got the white blood cells, which essentially are there to clean the blood. And then I have these little stars; those are for electrolytes. Then you've got the red blood cells, which is essentially what we think of when we think of blood. So the really important thing that I learned is that these little cells, the endothelium, lines the entire structure of your vascular system. So they're relatively simple cells, and they're formed by elements of plants. And the cells help filter fluids. They maintain alkalinity. They manage blood vessel charge, which basically means the lower the acidity or the higher the alkalinity in the blood, the more charged the red blood vessels can be. The red blood cells can be. So they also regulate the hemostasis, which is the number of blood cells that are in the blood itself in the body. And then the neutrophil, which is basically a fancy word for saying it allows the cells that are outside the veins to absorb nutrition that's floating in the blood. And it's also, they're responsible for hormone trafficking. So all the hormones that are flying are all around your body. These are the things that are picking up and or gathering, really, the hormones as they're floating through the body. So they also provide the vascular structure with their flexibility. So that's kind of important to know that that's essentially like a solar panel. It's inside of your veins, and it is made up of plant-based tissues, which essentially are able to absorb that material and also keep your blood nice and oxidized. So on the outside, you have the nervous tissue. So neurons are excitable, which means they function by using electrical stimulation. Through this electrical message known as an action potential, neurons are able to initiate actions in the cells they target. So it can like shrink and expand the vascular structure based on need. And it also helps explain, like right here, so you've got some magnets right there. And so if I were to take this tube, which is just a piece of copper, and I were to let some magnets fall through there, you notice that they fall really, really slow. So these magnets represent your red blood cells here, and the electrolytes. That's what allows your blood to conduct charge. So as your blood moves through the vascular structure, which is electrolytic, it conducts electricity. The reason why the magnets are falling so slowly is because as the magnetic field that the magnets produce moves through the tube, just like in Newton's law, produces an equal and opposite charge, meaning the electrical field is equal and opposite, moving in the direction directly opposing the magnetic field. So as your blood pumps out of your heart, the vascular structure on the exterior actually channels that energy using like these cells as like little solar panels, and channels that energy back to the heart to create your next beat. So kind of the main points, the takeaways are iron content. So your body definitely has to have iron, because without iron, it's not conducting an electric field, which that is then captured and sent back to the heart. So electrolytes are also necessary. There's little stars there. So they contain and they conduct magnetic and electrical potential by virtue of their geometry, their crystal mineral structure that allows energy to be sort of tapped and shared between the atoms and the structures within crystalline and mineral elements within the body. The alkalinity is actually one of the things that I learned about, and alkalinity is a vacancy of electrons, which is naturally attracts electrons to the body. So a 1 on the pH scale would be like battery acid. It's full of electrons. That's why we use it in batteries. On the other side would be lye, which means it just really sucks in electrons. Neutral or distilled water is at 7, and that's actually right around where the human body is going to sit most comfortably. So in order to get the best charge out of your blood for all those blood cells trying to carry oxygen, purified structured water plus Himalayan pink salt solution. Basically, Himalayan pink salt contains all of the minerals and electrolytes that your body needs in order to function at optimum or peak efficiency. And the function and form, it's really important. These cells are not really talked about, but they're extremely important for vascular health. And so for healthy endothelium cells, you're going to want lots of leafy greens. You're going to want high alkaline foods and healthy fat levels. Because that's what helps these little guys be super great. So you can actually really cheap solutions, baking soda. You can take baking soda, and that will actually alkalize your blood if you wanted to go the least expensive way possible. And another good, really good thing to try out is goji berries. They'll actually also dramatically change the alkalinity of your blood, and you can watch videos that they have on YouTube regarding, the effects of goji berries, and that's GOJI, if you wanted to look that up. So here's a structured water molecule. So this is like a top view. So you've got the 4 cardinal directions, and then there would be 1 circle on top, and then there'd be 1 circle on bottom. This is a little bit easier for you to picture maybe. So you've got the 6 individual water molecules, and their magnetic fields overlap. So as their magnetic fields overlap and touch, they create the 8 points of symmetry that we're familiar with and when all of science. So you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 overlapping fields, and then 9, which is essentially it's coming out, and 0, which is essentially where it's being pulled in from. So that is essentially everything that you need in order to create a magnetic singularity, meaning the magnetic fields are wrapping around very, very tightly, because this is actually the exact form of our universe. So imagine like the South Pole, North Pole, and this whole thing is rotating. So these 4 are rotating around these 2, which creates an incredibly implosive force, which binds them together very, very, very tightly. So when you look at structured water, it consists of 6 molecules. So the water molecules have an intense magnetic field due to the overlapping field that creates a magnetic singularity, which is the 0,9 function. So the electrical potential of structured water is much, much higher. It's as much as 40,000 times stronger than non-structured water. So structured water vortex greatly increases the magnetic bond and molecular spin. In other words, these water molecules are very, very stable. Even if one water molecule leaves, it will be replaced by another water molecule, and the structure can outlast basically any other structure that water can create. So those structures could be replaced, each of these water molecules could be replaced indefinitely while maintaining the structure. And that's really from the natural flow of water, how water naturally rolls in vortices, which creates this naturally, like rolling over rocks or through streams, which are back and forth, naturally form this in water through streams and other things. But when we use piping that's basically 90 degrees, it smashes these apart, which creates basically unstructured or single water molecules, which can kind of clump together, and it can't even be absorbed really in your body. But more importantly than that is that, like, if you were looking at a cell, and this is kind of a poor drawing, but if you were to cut it away, that structure actually forms around the nucleus, because these water molecules, obviously they're fractal. So the more you have them in there, the more they align to bigger and bigger versions of this. So once it's completely full, it will have this north, south, east, west, and rotational field that's happening right over here, which actually synchronizes with the DNA of the cell. So the naturally occurring 6-molecule structure creates a magnetic vortex that interacts with the spherical form ball of DNA. The non-structured water does not have this effect. It does not create this vortex, and it does not interact with DNA on a subcellular level like structured water does, because it has completely different magnetic field principles because of basically the lines of force are added together. So that's why you get way higher electrical potentials. And so if you just keep that in mind, if you get structured water, maintain your alkalinity. And if you're in a place where you have a lot of heavy water or heavy elements in the water, activated charcoal can actually pull those out of your blood. So just by doing that, you can dramatically increase the amount of energy that your blood is actually pumping through your body. And I just thought it would be kind of interesting to share that. Let me know if you have any thoughts.